The UK overseas territories are scattered across all 7 seas. Many are remote and isolated. The territory of Pitcairn is lost in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, halfway between South America and New Zealand. The only way to get there is by cargo ship from French Polynesia, 700 kilometers away. The territory is made up of 4 tiny islands. Pitcairn itself is the only inhabited one. It was home to Polynesians until about 700 years ago. Later, it became home to the mutineers from the Bounty, and it's been inhabited ever since. Because it's been inhabited for so long, many plants and animals here are not native, including a few surprises. The largest of the introduced animals is this Galapagos tortoise called Mrs. T. She was one of several that was dropped off on the island over 50 years ago. There you go. Many of the plants here are also aliens. These huge fig trees, for example. These newcomers have pushed out Pitcairn's native plants. Pitcairn has several kinds of plants found nowhere else. Some now on the verge of extinction.
Yeah, okay, so this is the yellow fowltooth, the abetalon. We've only got one left growing in the wild, which is quite sad actually.
It's very sobering to see such a rare plant.
See in there? You see the little buds in there coming out? Yeah. So she's going to be blooming within a week.
But all is not lost. Pitcairn's rare plants are now being propagated at a conservation centre on the island. If the island itself is drastically changed by introduced species, the reefs offshore are less so. Beneath the waves, shoals of brassy chub congregate over exposed outcrops. Coral gardens provide homes for colourful fish. "200 kilometres away, Henderson Island has been uninhabited since the Polynesians disappeared around 700 years ago. So its lush forests have very few introduced species. In the vastness of the ocean, it provides a nesting site for many seabirds. A masked booby. Though it's far from paradise, this bird is infected with parasitic flies that scurry through its head feathers, where it can't reach them. Masked boobies occur right around the tropics. But Henderson's forests also shelter some unique seabirds. Henderson petrels. Although they range far and wide over the ocean, they all return to this one tiny island to nest. And land birds also made it here and evolved into many new species, like the Henderson lorikeet, and the Henderson fruit dove. Beneath them, the forest floor is alive with land hermit crabs. Offshore, Henderson's coral reefs are spectacular. They've had a long time to recover from fishing. Now, fish of all shapes and sizes swim through crystal waters. Shoals of blackjack, blacktip groupers, grey reef sharks, and the colours are dazzling. Shoals of sunset antheas, long-nosed butterfly fish, and ornate and four-spot butterfly fish. Their colour, number and diversity is astounding. But perhaps the most incredible revelation from diving on Henderson's reefs is that this is what all coral reefs should look like. The UK overseas territory of Pitcairn Island is a remote speck of land lost in the vastness of the Pacific. There are only about 50 Pitcairn Islanders, descended from the mutineers who commandeered the HMS Bounty in 1789, along with a selection of Polynesians they brought with them from Tahiti. The islanders have evolved their own unique traditions and customs. Not many ships call in here, and when one does, bells ring out across the island to let the islanders know they have visitors. The islanders are also skilled craftsmen and women. I'm on my way to find Reynold and Nola Warren to see their creations. Reynold is a wood carver and knows how to make the best use of all the local trees. Wow, that's a nice canoe.
This is mango tree and burro wood.
Some of his work is simply practical.
Bring on my firewood.
And this is the traditional...
It's water, yeah.
Traditional design, the Pitcairn design.
Yeah. Henderson and I rubber some on top of there from...
But smaller carvings, like the iconic HMS Bounty, are for sale to tourists and collectors. and are a vital part of the island's economy. The preferred wood for these comes from Henderson Island, some 200 kilometres distant. And Reynolds' preferred carving tools are knife and axe. It's extraordinary that such crude tools can produce such exquisite carvings.
Watch out!
And you taught yourself, you learnt yourself how to do this.
Oh, from my grandfather, yeah.
Your Seychelles Island descendant, isn't it? Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh.
Come right in.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Nola is always ready for visitors.
Would you like a drink? That's the tea. I don't know who's gonna.
Lovely.
Yeah, sit over there on that side. Yeah.
Okay.
Just help yourself.
Oh, thank you very
Just help yourself. Have you tried a guava?
Show me we go
You
first.
don't want him molasses.
You like to taste the molasses?
Well, if that's all right, if that's okay.
Yeah. You can taste them, but I don't think they go really well with sweet things.
Oh, okay. Nola herself is a basket maker. Traditional designs woven from palm leaves.
Someone else still makes them on the island.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah, they use them like they were stored on shelf in the kitchen.
How did you learn this?
I think I had to learn them when I'm young. Growing up, my grandmother taught me. Actually, in those days, it's a traditional thing that you had to learn how to make them. Yeah, whether you like or you don't. Yeah,
They're beautiful.
You think they are?
Oh, I think they're lovely,
Lovely.
baskets. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, little nut on.
Wow. The beautiful colours as well.
them.
Wonderful.
Carrie knew how to make these. I think Carrie knew how to make them from coconuts. You can't marry unless you learn. If you don't know how to make it, you shouldn't get married.
Really?
It's a saying on Pitcairn Island. That's the coconut fronds. Yeah.
Beautiful.
We never make them for sale.
You don't?
I don't think they would buy them.
Oh, I'd buy one.
You would?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look great.
Do you want one?
I'd love one.
Or I'll make you one before you leave. I've got an ear up there. Reynolds got an ear to make.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll pop back and
Yeah.
buy one off you. Pitcairn Island might seem remote to us, but not to Polynesians, who thought nothing of crossing vast distances in ocean-going canoes. The island had been discovered long before the Bounty mutineers ever got here, and the evidence for that is just over here. These strange markings are evidence of Polynesians here, but as of yet no one's been able to decipher them, and we have no idea what they mean. The painters of these symbols disappeared long before the Bounty mutineers arrived, and today's islanders still puzzle over their meaning.
This character here is always intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, what does it really mean?
Even so, Merelda Warren uses these symbols in her work. She paints with traditional materials on tapa, paper made from the bark of trees.
This one's a pretty good piece.
Tapa
This one
is a traditional form of Polynesian art, widespread across the Pacific in places like Fiji and Samoa, but it died out on Pitcairn in the middle of the 20th century. Now Merelda has worked out the process and has revived the art form.
It went from me trying to use different techniques in the Samoan culture, the Fijian culture, until I actually have found my own.
Really?
Yes,
That's amazing.
I found my own.
And why did they stop tapa? Why did it stop?
Well, there was a good chant to go with the tapa, and unfortunately we don't know the chant anymore. It's the era when the missionaries were coming through, and some of them felt it was a bit unchristian, and so it, you know, the art of making tapa, the art of dancing, all of that was lost.
Wow.
Yeah. and it's going to come off.
That's incredible.
You want to have a go?
Sure.
Yeah.
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 So just
On the, yeah,
just like that.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Soft.
Yeah. It's a bit woofy, it's a bit smelly. And
The bark then has to be
it's
soaked.
starting to break down. And I have several pieces in here.
Then it has to be flattened out before being soaked some more.
It, and I'm doing the outside, and it's starting to spread just a little bit. Okay? Right. Now it goes back for another soak.
Okay.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is cook up some black dye using the goodwin nut.
The pigments for painting are also made from local plants.
Load it into the... They're all right to eat, but if you eat too much, it's a laxative and it'll clean you out.
Really?
Yeah. And I just collect the smoke by just brushing it out using a palm nut.
Yeah.
Brushing it out and just mixing that with a little bit of bark dye.
Wow.
And we have this beautiful
Pure black.
pure black.
And the results capture the enigmatic symbols painted on the cliffs just a short distance away.
You can just mount it up there.
Pitcairn also has its own language, which again can be traced back to the islanders' unusual origins. So, where does Pitcairn, the language, come from?
It came from the women of the Bounty and the English men, and they can't speak the language of each other fluently, and so with them teaching the children of the Bounty, that's where the language originated from. The combination of both Polynesian and English together.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We were not allowed to speak Pitcairn when we were little growing up,
Really?
especially in schools and church and stuff like that. And now they employ people like me to try and teach Pitcairn to the kids.
Do the kids like learning it, or are they engaging?
Yeah. They're struggling sometimes because one of their parents is English speaking, or
Right.
yeah.
That's so cool. And would you mind speaking a little bit of Pitcairn to each other?
Mum, you asked me something. Well, if you can keep talking on for Auckland, you can make us all get a whatu head.
What does that mean?
Uh,
Or dare I ask?
A pot crawling in your teeth.
Oh, really?
if you keep talking for us for a long time,
Yep.
we'll get tired in the head.
Okay.
Yes, and we're going to be so whatu.
Okay.
Tired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Living in such a remote part of the world has its advantages, particularly for the younger generation.
When he went out,
Yeah.
he just...
So what's it like as a mother on Pitcairn?
Well, I think it's wonderful for the kids because they get so many opportunities that the kids outside don't have. And, you know, you can go out and play until it's dark and then mum calls you in and you have dinner and then you can go outside and play. It's a lot of freedom for the kids.
That's a wonderful life for the kids growing up.
She doesn't quite grasp the concept of outside. You ask her a question about New Zealand, what would you like to see there? She just wouldn't get the amount of cars or the amount of people or how big the city is.
Emily, how do you view a city?
What do you think a city's got in it?
Lots and lots of people.
How many people do you think?
I believe 200.
Do you know the capital city of England? Capital city is London. And the whole big city Guess how many people are in the whole city? How many are in London?
100?
Nope.
200?
I think it's 11 million.
That's a lot of people.
That'll be crowded.
Yeah, it would be crowded.
How do you feel about going to a place where you don't know everyone?
Would it be scary?
Shy.
Are you shy? Because here you know everyone, of course, but
But when I get used to them, like, nice.
it's so interesting that you've grown up in the maximum distance you've travelled from here is basically the distance of the island, which is what, 2 kilometres away, approximately. So there's a big world out there to see. Would you like to go and explore it? Great. I really hope you do. Pitcairn truly is an extraordinary place with a unique culture, but a welcoming one. In my brief stay, I've been invited into the homes of many of the islanders and made to feel like part of the family.
Oh, did you pull the seats out?
A family that began when Fletcher Christian and his fellow mutineers landed the bounty on Pitcairn and called this place home. Henderson Island is part of the Pacific territory of Pitcairn, but lies 200 kilometres from Pitcairn Island itself, and some 10,000 kilometres from the coast of South America, lost in the vastness of the South Pacific. To get here, I've caught a ride on the freighter, Claymore 2, which connects Pitcairn Island with Mangareva in French Polynesia. Henderson is only 10 kilometres by 5 kilometres, yet it's a vitally important place. It's virtually the last example of a raised coral island in the Pacific with an intact ecosystem. These beautiful beaches are pretty much as remote as you can get on the surface of the planet. But as remote as Henderson is, some creatures seem to have no difficulty in finding it. This bristle-thighed curlew has travelled here from breeding grounds in faraway Alaska. Tiny Henderson Island is one of the most important wintering grounds for this rare bird. Although how it can possibly find the island in the vastness of the Pacific is one of the great mysteries of the world. Henderson's lush forests are home to other long-distance travellers. Henderson petrels, which range far and wide over the ocean, but only breed on Henderson. Landbirds have also managed to discover this place. They stayed and evolved into species found nowhere else on the planet but here. The Henderson lorikeet, a colourful little parrot. The Henderson fruit dove. And the elusive Henderson crake, a flightless bird that skulks on the forest floor. But Henderson's unique birds haven't always had this place to themselves. Polynesians were just as adept are travelling vast distances across the Pacific and in finding tiny islands to colonise. They found Henderson around 800 years ago, and when they arrived, the island abounded in life.
Henderson is larger than Pitcairn, and there's abundant food here. The flightless land birds would have been easy prey for the Polynesians, and these land hermit crabs that cover the ground would have been easy pickings. And of course the reefs also just teem with fish. There's been about 20 major habitation sites discovered so far on the cliffs that surround the island, and that indicates approximately 100 Polynesians could have once lived here.
On such a small island, even 100 people can have a big impact, and several birds seem to have disappeared during the Polynesian occupation. The Polynesians themselves disappeared around 500 years ago, perhaps to colonize new islands. And apart from a few shipwrecked sailors, Henderson has been uninhabited ever since. But the Polynesian influence is still being felt. Pacific rats hitched rides on Polynesian canoes, and like the Polynesians, they've crisscrossed the Pacific. On Henderson, they eat around 90% of all seabird chicks within a week of hatching. To return Henderson to a truly pristine state means getting rid of the rats. In 2011, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds and the Pitcairn government began a massive eradication campaign.
In the 2 years since the rat eradication project was completed, an expedition has returned here to Henderson Island, and apparently they unfortunately saw a rat.
Rats are still here, though their lower numbers after the eradication campaign has meant some bird populations have risen, at least until rat numbers build back up again.
Henderson Island remains uninhabited, and it's about as far from the rest of the world and humanity as you can possibly get. But as more and more private yachts travel across the oceans of the globe, the risk of introducing more non-native species to habitats such as this one is ever increasing. How is it possible to police the most remote and uninhabited corners of the globe? How can we prevent more ecological disasters from happening again and from history from repeating itself?
Even this, one of the most unsport places on the planet, still bears the hand of humanity. As I leave this tiny speck of land, it gives me pause for thought. Will the next generation of people be able to find anywhere at all that resembles pristine nature?
"14 days after leaving Rapa Nui, and with the last breath of wind, we reach Pitcairn.
After more than 1 year in Chile, we raise a new flag, the UK for Pitcairn.
The island is notorious for lacking sheltered anchorages, so Lucy Paratu incessantly rolls.
In 1790, the mutineers of the British HMS Bounty found this remote, uninhabited island and made it their home. On shore, we are warmly welcomed. We check in with Immigration Officer Brenda and then explore the island.
Delicious fruits grow in the wild. We learn about the history of the Bounty and find its anchor and cannon. we hike to St. Paul's Pool, a natural saltwater pool between basalt rocks. A few days later, it's calm enough to snorkel.
We make our way to Brenda and her husband Mike's house and find a large vegetable garden filled with tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers and melons. The islanders grow a lot of fruit and vegetables themselves, as a supply ship only comes 4 times a year. The island's remoteness has made them very self-reliant. They share things, fix whatever breaks, and recycle as much waste as they can.
On our last day, we are invited to Brenda's birthday celebrations. Half the island's population partakes in the festivities. We could not have had a better farewell.